Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tammy Kiefer, and I'm your host here in Relationship Revolution. And I'm really happy that you guys are here, either if you're catching this live or if you're catching the replay. Let me know how you're watching this. That's always helpful to me. Um, so I'm going to dive right in. First, I'm getting over a cold. I think last Tuesday I had mentioned that I was feeling a little bit off. Holy hell, it like came in and knocked me on my ass. It took me out. I don't, it wasn't COVID. I don't know. Have you guys gotten sick? There's a couple of my friends and some family members that have this like respiratory thing that kind of moved in, and I was gonna say moved out, but clearly it's like lingering. So if you have dealt with this, let me know. I'm just curious because it's a little strange. It's not COVID, or I didn't test positive for COVID anyway, but um, man, took me down. So anyway, I am partially back, way better than I was a few days ago. So I was trying to do therapy and I did not have a voice, and my clients were very, very, very patient because it was more of a it was whisper therapy is what I guess I could call that. So whatever, we do what we can, right? So um, I was thinking today about what are we going to talk about, and I wanted to talk. I wanted to dig in a little bit with attachment theory, and how we learn how to be vulnerable based on our attachment style, and then even more so how it helps us or hinders us as far as being able to connect with other people. And mostly I'm talking about in relationships, because I think that we have business friendships and we have like career friendships, but um, but I think that we're a different person when we're in our business realm versus as we are in our personal realm. I think that business and careers, while you do form close connections, there's just a different level of vulnerability when you're in the office, or when you're talking with your boss, or even when you're having relationships with like colleagues, just work friends. I mean, you guys probably agree with that. Like, we're just different people. I know I'm a totally different person. When I'm in the office space. I think that like I don't know. I guess like my personality is probably still the same. My morals, my values, I think they're still the same. But there's just a different level of vulnerability, and a level of closeness. And when I'm talking about vulnerability, I'm talking about like how much you let people in, and how much people really get to know you. I think that in the outside world, I think that there's more. I don't know. What would you say? Like, there's a precaution. Like, what if they really learn who I am? What if they really like disagree with some of my belief systems? What if they think that the way that I'm parenting is wrong? What if they think da 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 da? I think we're very caught up in like worrying about what other people think, and you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I don't care who you are. We care what other people think. I mean, I think that there's a spectrum and degrees to it. I think that there's an unhealthy part of caring too much, because then it compromises who you are. But at the end of the day, if you guys aren't going grocery shopping naked, you care about what people think. So it's out there. You can't get away from that, because I think that there's a level of um, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think that it's a level of pride and whatever else. But I guess before I go down that rabbit hole, I think that we I totally just went down the rabbit hole. I think that going back to the way that we grew up, and I guess I wanted to go over attachment real quick, if you haven't caught one of my lives before, um, because attachment happens in the stages between 0 and 3 years old, and attachment is the stage that we go through during 0 and 3. It's teaching us how to trust other people. It's teaching us how to trust our environment. It's teaching us how to trust ourselves in that environment. and based on, and I'll go over a little bit about attachment, but based on how you grew up is really the caregivers, whoever your caregivers are or were during that period of time, whatever their mental state was, their capacity, their ability to recognize emotions, their ability to manage their emotions, their ability to um, work through their emotions, it made them either available or not available or anywhere along that spectrum. It made them that available to you as a 0 to 3 year old little person. Um, so that's how we learn how to trust ourselves, how to trust other people. And based on whichever attachment style we gravitate towards, and you can have like a crossover, it's not like, blocks where you only fit into one. I mean, I don't think life is like that anyways. But depending on which one you gravitate towards the most is how you start to live your life going forward, and how you create your filter. I think we all have a filter of, and it's based on what we learned, and then what we continue to learn and continue to learn. So an example is like if you grew up in an environment that was highly religious. Let's go to one end of the spectrum, where you went to church maybe 1, 2 times a week, and maybe you guys said a prayer before every meal, and you said your prayers before nighttime, and that was just a thing growing up. You tend to create that, becomes part of your filter, and so maybe something comes along in your life and your first coping mechanism is to pray. Your If something bad happens, you question like, what did I do to deserve that? Maybe I don't, just like you learn how to incorporate what you grew up with, and and that becomes your norm. I mean, like how you grew up, you don't have anything to compare that to until you get into like mm, later elementary school, junior high, high school. Definitely when you eventually move out of the house, all of a sudden it's like, holy cow, there's another way of doing things. Like maybe you meet a best friend along the way who didn't grow up religious, and so they didn't do a prayer before dinner or meals. Maybe they don't go to a brick and mortar facility to pray and to express their religion and their belief system, and you start to look at like, I really like this person. Like maybe it's okay that we grew up different, but you don't know that it's different until you go out and meet somebody, um, and have something to compare it to. So I guess what I'm saying is like however you went through your attachment period is your normal, and um, and so we don't you don't really question yourself. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it what's okay? Until all of a sudden you learn a different way of doing it, or until maybe you're going along and you realize like, I don't align with this anymore. I mean, I think that that's a common thing. I work with a lot of clients who grew up in more of an organized religion, or maybe even more on the rigid end of a religion where it's very, very strict, and you do this and you do this and you do this, and if you don't do this, you're a bad person. It's that, I think they've referred to it as Catholic guilt. There's, just all the have their own, different religions have their different ways of talking about it. Um, but I think that you have a chance later in life to recognize, is this working for me? Who am I? And what is my belief system? And is this working for me? I think one of the I don't know if I'd say the saddest situations that I dealt with in my practice, my heart just went out to both of these people. I was doing couples counseling, and they had met each other at a younger age, and they were both brought up in the Mormon religion. And somewhere along the course, I think, yeah, I think they had 2 kids. It was like maybe a decade ago, it was a long time ago. But I think they had 2 kids, and somewhere along the line, the husband was like, I'm not aligning with this religion anymore. And the wife was absolutely floored. And she very, very, very much still subscribed to the Mormon religion and belief system. And for whatever reason, he had stepped out and started learning different religions and things like that. And he was like, I don't think I can do it. And she was like, well, I can't be with you if you're not. And they had to come to such a hard decision if their marriage was going to work or not, because of how they grew up and what they were taught the whole time. And then all of a sudden things changed and they realized, like, we're different, we have different belief systems, which, holy cow, it just like made their entire worlds together crumble. And I realize this is kind of off topic, but it's such a, like, when you are going through your life doing what you know and what's comfortable to you, and then all of a sudden you make a shift, your whole world around you can feel like it's just rattled and falling apart. And half of half of my client wanted to just like put his head, covers back on and go, it's okay, I can do it, I can do it, just don't think about these other things. And half of his other self wanted to say, like, reach out to his wife and say, come with me, just come read this thing, come experience this other side of life that I'm learning about. It's totally new. And I think her um mindset was just like, I can't do it, I can't do it. And it was heartbreaking to see them and the struggles that they had, because they had to face a reality. I think it's kind of I mean, it's like these huge decisions that couples come to in their lives, and it's gonna either make or break them. Um, and it's based on shifts. It's based on understanding and learning and deciding, like, this isn't working for me anymore. So, okay, down that rabbit hole, I'm gonna back us back up and get back to what we were talking about, which is attachment. But it's how you were raised growing up. And when you're there was we did a podcast recording this morning with a gentleman who was super amazing, um, and he told a story which I loved, and I wanted to share with you his story that he had used, because I just thought it was so fascinating. His name is Dr. Carlos, and I can put his information in the link, because I just thought he was super cool. But he was talking about, like, a kid who was growing up and his parents were like, guess what, we're gonna go to dinner and you get to order anything that you want to, and on the menu. And the kid's like super excited, and so he goes and he opens up the menu and he's all excited, and he's like, I want pizza, I want this cheesy yummy pizza. And the parents were like, yeah, but you're never gonna eat the whole thing and we're gonna waste money. And he's like, yeah, but I think I still want the pizza. And then the other parent was like, you never get the pizza, you always get the hamburger, why don't you just get the hamburger, because you know you love the hamburger. And he's like, oh, well, okay, I guess I'll get the hamburger. Dr. Carlos was talking about how maybe that doesn't seem like a traumatic experience, but at that point in that little boy's life, he is learning to question his intuition. He's learning to question himself. He's learning, like, maybe I can't make good decisions. Maybe I can't trust myself. And that didn't just start when this little boy was, I don't know, it's a story, so like 7 years old. It starts so much younger. And maybe this attachment style, sorry, you guys, maybe this attachment style of more of an anxious attachment, where you've got more of a hovering person, where it's like, no, 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 don't do that, you're gonna fall, no, 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 don't do this, you're gonna break that, no, 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 let me, don't make mistakes, don't ever make mistakes, it's gonna be okay. It's like in Finding Nemo, it's Nemo's dad. Um, and I loved the part when Nemo was, or whoever it was, maybe it was Dora, I can't remember, but they're like, you can't protect your kids from everything. In fact, don't protect them from everything. You've got to make mistakes. But I think that growing up in that type of attachment, with the anxious attachment, you don't trust yourself, and so you become more anxious. You're more likely to have an anxious type of personality, because you never learn to trust yourself. So if you're out there in the dating world, and I guess what I was referring to with the story is that it's little teeny, it's like the death by a thousand cuts, or one of my clients called it death by a thousand ant bites, which I liked because that was like more of a visual for me. But it's like little ant bite, little ant bite, little ant bite. Over time, if you don't interrupt this process of, yes, this is the way that it is, and this is healthy, and this is normal, and you have to do this, and you have to do this, if you don't interrupt that cycle, you can continue down a path of not trusting yourself, not trusting your intuition, second guessing yourself. And what type of relationship do you think you're going to find yourself in? You're going to find yourself in maybe a very controlling relationship, because you're going to be attracted to someone where you say, tell me what to do, tell me what to do, I'll do whatever. I don't know, I don't know how to make decisions. I'm a bad decision maker. I don't know, I just can't ever make decisions. So now all of a sudden you've learned to label yourself as a bad decision maker, and I can't make decisions, and I can't trust my gut feeling, so I'm needing you to do that for me. And if you find a person who's like, hell yeah, I'm all over that, do this, do this, do this, do this, and creates a very controlling type relationship, it's like it fits, but it's such a twisted fit. You know, it's I look at when I'm doing couples counseling, people come in and things aren't working, and but they're working. It's just not pretty, and in the long run it's not working. I think of it as like you learn how to have this dance with somebody, and you do your part and they do their part, but then when you like step back and you look at each other, like your toes are all bruised, and your arms are all tattered, and your clothes are all ripped, and your hair's a mess, because this dance is destroying each other. And the music has to change, but the music doesn't just change on its own. You have to step back and go, this isn't working for me. So that's what could happen in more of an anxious attachment style, is you're creating a dependency of, I need you and I can't live my life without you. And likely a caregiver was more on the anxious side. They weren't really trusting themselves. So you can create the very dependent personality. Um, Another type of attachment is fearful, or it's also called disorganized. And in this attachment style, you've got someone that's kind of like there's a lot of inconsistencies. I'm either all in or I'm out. It's like a all or nothing. There's a you're communicating something where it's like, I need you, I need you, I need you, but go away, go away, go away, you're too close. And it can be it's like a roller coaster ride, and a lot of times the personality type that comes from that is going to be what's called borderline personality. And it's just they have a really hard time regulating their emotions, so you're not really sure. Like, they might have an emotional reaction that is very intense based on a very mild situation, or sometimes they have a mild reaction to a very intense situation. So sometimes the reactions to the situations don't match up, and there's still a lot of not trusting the intuition. There's still the, like, I don't know how I feel. Like, I think I want you close to me, but once you get too close, I get so nervous that you're going to leave, and I sabotage it and I push you out of the equation, because I'm going to leave you before you leave me, or I'll hurt you before you hurt me. And there's still a lot of fear based, and I think with a lot of the attachments, there's typically a fear base, because fears are insecurities. That's what anxiety is all about, is fear of the unknown, fear of not having a sense of control. And so I think with with really all the attachment styles, except for the secure one, there's a need to be in control, because control makes you feel like, oh, I can exhale, except you're trying to control things that you can't control, which is really other people. So if I can lure you in, then I can push you out anytime I want to. I can be defensive. Sorry, guys. I haven't talked this much for a long time. So, so that would be the disorganized or fearful type of attachment. And when you grow up like that, again, you don't trust people. You don't trust that people actually want to be your friend. You're kind of looking at it like, yeah, you're probably going to leave me at some point. I can't trust to be really vulnerable with you because you're going to end up leaving me. And so there's this fear of also being alone. And so a lot of times, you might end up sabotaging a relationship, when really the other person might be there just because they want to be there. They might be there because they truly, authentically love you, but because you're not trusting that, like, nah, that doesn't really exist. I never experienced that in these formative years, so there's just no way that can happen. You can end up sabotaging and pushing that person away. The third type of attachment is the avoidant attachment. And avoidant attachment is where your caregivers were very, very unavailable. Unavailable for many, many reasons. It could be where you had a single parent who had three jobs trying to raise a gaggle of kids. What kind of time is that caregiver going to really have to spend quality, consistent, as unconditional as humans can get, but unconditional love? They can't. They're not even available. They're going from job to job to job. Maybe they're relying on the older kids to help out with the younger kids, or a neighbor, or someone else. Or maybe there's like, on Mondays it's the neighbor, on Tuesdays it's a grandparent, on Wednesdays it's, they're available, on Thursdays it's someone else, it's a best friend. So now you've got all these caregivers coming in and out, but never really forming a solid relationship. A lot of times, other things that can make a caregiver unavailable could be mental illness, substance abuse. Um, Maybe they grew up in a space where they were very, very self-centered and they just really don't have time for other people. Um, Maybe they grew up in a household. Your caregiver grew up in a household, where emotions were not expressed. That's a weakness, and so any kind of vulnerable emotion that comes along, they're like, nope, you better throw that away because that's not how we do it in this household. And so growing up again in that space, you don't trust yourself. If you have a vulnerable emotion, you're feeling like that's a negative thing against your character. So it could be where you shut it down. You learn not to be available emotionally. You learn not to have a sense of vulnerability because vulnerability was never role modeled and vulnerability was never a safe thing to do. And so if you grow up in that environment, a lot of times it can look like a super successful person. Maybe there's, I don't know, but I think that there's pros and cons to all the different personalities and family roles. But maybe this person seems like they have it all together, and they just kind of go along and speak the speak, and look a certain part, and it seems like they've got it all together. But their relationships are very shallow because they're not available for anything deep. There's a fear of vulnerability with that also. And so a lot of times growing up in that personality, in that attachment style, you get labeled narcissistic, you get labeled self-centered. I was reading something, I can't remember where it was, but it was like there's as far as narcissistic personality disorder, I know we throw that out there a lot, but there's I want you to remember, there's very much a spectrum of narcissistic personality disorder. There's like the most intense is antisocial personality disorder, where there's zero empathy. And then the narcissism is the next layer, self-centered is the next layer, and I don't know what another layer would be, but anyways, you can see where, like, people who are actually considered antisocial, very, very small percentage. People who are actually narcissistic behavior, a smaller percentage. So I think, like, in this attachment style, in the avoidant one, and when we start talking about narcissistic people, um, I really encourage you guys to look at, is this person like, there's more, let me see, how do I say this? There's so much more insecurity type stuff going on with that person than there is true narcissism. A lot of times, emotions are so scary for a person. Oh, hi. Um, there's a dog barking outside, so someone has to be apart because she's got FOMO. Um, but there's there's a reason why people are so self-centered and all about me and guarded, and all those narcissistic traits that we talk about. There's a reason for it, and a lot of times it happened because during their growing up period, in these formative years, it was, we don't talk about feelings, it's not role modeled, it's not okay, no one's checking in with you to say like, how are you doing, how are you feeling. It's very cold there, it's very distant, it's very non-connective, and so that's your little seed. And then as you go through life, you start looking at like, why would I be close to people in kindergarten? Like, no one's ever been close to me, this feels very awkward, I don't like it. um, I don't like to be vulnerable. I don't want to share my story about what I did this weekend because no one cares. Like, I don't care about your story. Why would you care about my story? So then it goes into junior high, and then it goes into high school, and then it goes into the rest of your life where it's like, vulnerability is bad. Any kind of negativity stuff, whoop, my blinders go up. I have no time for that. I don't want to hear about your stuff. Because I don't look at my own stuff. That's kind of what the narcissistic or self-centered, that characteristic is saying, is I'm scared to look at my own stuff. I'm sure is not going to look at your stuff. Like, what's wrong with you? Go fix it. Why are you like that? Pick yourself up. Like, what, you're weak, you're whatever. Like, suck it up, buttercup. And a lot of that is so much more of a projection of like, when I lay my head down to go to bed at night, all the fears start kicking in. And I have learned to shove them and shove them and shove them away so that I don't have to think about them. And I'm wonderful and I'm great and I'm right and I'm doing all the things that everybody else wants to do. And this is how they overcompensate for all of that stuff that they've been able to shove down, because it's terrifying to open that door and see what's underneath there, because they've had years of being told in their minds, no one cares, and you shouldn't either. And you got to just keep forging on, and you have to rely on yourself if you're going to be successful and happy, no matter how you define success. So what type of person do you think that person is going to seek out in a relationship? Is it going to be someone who's warm and cozy and vulnerable and lovey? And no. It might be someone who is equally as closed down, as equally as guarded, and as equally as so they've got like kind of a, sometimes you'll see it in like power relationships, where there's no depth, but it looks great on the outside. Sometimes a person like that will be attracted to somebody who appears to be weaker, but weaker in their mind is someone who expresses their emotions. So yeah, sometimes there are people who they're attracted to because they have the ability to control them, and then they feel in control, and then they don't have to take a look at their own stuff, and so it makes it easier for them to be able to feel successful because I'm in control. So there's, I guess what I wanted to talk about today is these different attachment styles. They come from somewhere, and until we start looking at where they come from and how they presented themselves through life and how they present themselves in relationships, we don't give ourselves an opportunity to make a shift. And I think that shift is so, so, so important. I mean, it's self-reflection. It's recognizing, am I doing today what I want to role model to my kids? Am I behaving in a way that I'm proud of? Um, I was, let's see, I had a client who, I'm trying to think of how to describe this. Um, I think that he didn't recognize how he was coming across in the session, in how he was being descriptive of his reactions to things. And, I could have just absolutely unloaded, like, oh, you're just like grinding on my last nerve with this degree of anger and just like, blah. But I asked him if he was proud of how he was behaving. And and I think that it took a step back. It had him take a step back, and I could kind of see the wheels start working. And I took the opportunity to elaborate, like, not just right now, but in your whole life. Like, when you go to bed at night, are you proud of the way that you conducted yourself? Are you proud of the way that you treated other people today? Just today. Are you proud of the way that you showed up in your life today? And I think that we all could ask ourselves that questions. There's plenty of days where I can look back and go, nope, I clearly was not proud of the way that I acted. And it's my opportunity to shift that. It's my opportunity to look at it and go, God, Tammy, where was that even coming from? And what made me feel like it was okay to do that? And what was I really trying to say? Or what was I guarding against? I mean, these are like massive journal entries that I think that there's not one person who couldn't benefit from doing that type of self-reflection. So um, I know this was a longer live, but I don't know. I think that I had my own light bulbs that went off, even this morning during this podcast that we did. But it was just like, it just needs to get talked about more. It needs to get recognized, because I think that what when I've had the opportunity to talk to a bunch of you guys, which I absolutely love, um, there's a piece of loneliness. There's a piece of, I I wish I could find the right person. I don't know why I keep being attracted to these types of people. Um, there's there's a desire to spend your life with somebody, um, and it doesn't have to be like on top of each other. I mean, a lot of you guys were like, nope, I have no desire to move in with someone again. I have no desire to get married again. That's okay. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you guys know me, I've been with Jim for, I don't know, 9 something years. We don't live together. We are married. We just got married last year, and we don't live together. Eventually we'll live together, but I love this day and age where you can make your relationship whatever you want to. But ask yourself, do you really want to be alone for the rest of your life? And I'm talking alone. And if it is yes, that's okay. But I would ask yourself to be honest with yourself in a 365-day calendar year. Are you okay being alone? Or is that a defense mechanism? Or are you just sick and tired of finding the wrong types of people or attracting the wrong types of people? Because we know healthy energy attracts healthy energy, and not healthy energy attracts not healthy energy. And I think that there's so much around how we grew up in these little nuggets of experiences of saying, you don't really want that pizza. You know, little nuggets that get added up that create our filter of what we think we deserve and what we think is going to make us happy in our lives and in our connections with people. And we have got to start talking about digging into this attachment stuff and recognizing what your own attachment is and how you've carried that forward, how you've carried it and nurtured it just because it's comfortable. And asking yourselves, is this working for me right now in all of my relationships? Not just a romantic relationship, in your friendships, in your connections with people. It doesn't even matter. But is this working for you? So, anyways, this is obviously an aspect that I am super passionate about. Um, Sorry, I heard someone open my door, but no one's here. So, um, this is I don't know what that was. This is something I'm super, super passionate about. Um, this is why I created the course. This is why I created the book. I mean, I know we talk about it. Um, I believe that you have to understand these little tidbits, your family roles, your attachments, how you handle conflict, how fear can hold you back. It's so important to understand this stuff because once you do, you get these light bulbs, and guess what? You become the creator of your own journey. You become the master of your path. You become so confident and empowered that you can't help but to start putting these ideas into fruition about what you really want. So, um, anyways, that's where it comes from. that that was a lot. I don't know about you guys. I feel like I need a nap. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that this was helpful. If you have questions, please put them in the comments. I'd love to know your takeaways. And if you've got some ideas and maybe even your own experiences about your attachment style and how you grew up and what ahas you've come to in your own journey. So anyways, thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys next week. Have a great week. Okay, bye.